Glad to see you all. And first thing is to thank you all for your collaboration, your engagement with the assessments, and helping us this year. We think this year for QAC is going to be pretty tough, and we will explain a little bit about that. The reason for this meeting is to give the kickoff for the 2023 assessment plan. We are being pretty ambitious, and we are trying, and we'll set a goal for you, especially lead assessors, that is to have all assessments finished by the end of the year. I think this is possible, but we will need to count with the help of the IMCs, of course, and this is maybe the biggest problem we'll have ahead. But before doing that, we've been doing some changes, just trying to help the assessor's task. And Sue, as Vice President of QAC, for those who don't know that yet, will show you some of those measures where you will find some documents, where IMCs will be able to find some documents. And then after Sue explains that, I'll get back and give some recommendations for the assessments of 2023, especially for lead assessors. Okay? So I don't know if Rima or Kusama have anything to add before Sue takes over.
Thank you for the opportunity, Christian, but nothing to add. We're listening. We also want to learn, and we also want to support when needed. So thank you.
Okay. You will hear from what Rima and Kusama's role will be and the support they will give you during the assessment. So please, Sue, take over.
Okay, I think I can share my screen. Okay, I hope you can all see that. Just a few slides. I know you've seen and probably heard a lot from me over the past few months, so I just want to stick to the highlights really. So with the upcoming assessments this year, you should have received a link to all the relevant documents on the G Drive, but if you haven't, please let us know and we can resend these. I just want, as I said, to share briefly the updated process and the documents on the G Drive. The original brief was to review our current documentation, but for me, this provided an update opportunity with a goal of providing additional support both for yourselves and for the IMCs, just to help with their understanding, which then leaves more time for the assessors to gain a deeper understanding of how the IMC operates. So, you know, whilst the documentation is a very important aspect, it shouldn't just be a tick list. So that's the object of this. I am working with Ilsa as her co-assessor on 2 assessments, and we will be using this updated approach. So I will obviously appreciate much her experience, and I'll get some direct feedback from her and also from the IMCs on their understanding, and if we need any further improvements going forward. I do hope that you will find all of this helpful with your assessments. I absolutely appreciate all of your experience and knowledge, so please feel free to share any feedback as you go through, as I go through today, or when you're actually carrying out your assessments, or if you've had a chance to go through some of the documentation. So just to summarize now what we have on the G Drive. You've probably seen this quite a few times now, but the Secretariat have been really supportive in helping us to group all of these relevant items together. So for the assessor, Nick recently worked on the assessment report and the checklist, so they now form one document. The checklist aligns with the statement of equivalence, and we'll look at that in a moment. There's an assessment plan template. This has been updated It includes more opportunity for tracking, and the Secretariat are happy to provide their support if you need anything chasing up with the IMCs. Also, if you want any of the branded templates, for example, PowerPoint presentations, reports, other reports, just let the Secretariat know and they can update those or provide those if they're available. So for the assessors, these next 3 items, there's the IMC assessment overview template. And this is a PowerPoint which is available to you as assessors to customize according to the type of assessment that you'll be carrying out, triennial, provisional, or whatever it is. There's an assessor overview, that's for yourselves. It just clarifies the process, where to find things. And you'll recognize this as the existing QAC reference guide. That's an existing document, which really goes into a lot more detail about the assessment itself. So once you've had your overview presentation with the IMC, they will be sent this pack. You can either send it, or again, you can ask the Secretariat to send it on your behalf. So this will be the overview, the previous report, because frequently the IMCs may have changed resource, or they don't know where to find it. So that's useful for them to have at the start. CMC 001, a fundamental document that they need to be aware of. The basic facts template, this is a new document, incorporates multiple deliverables into one place. So at one point we had like 17 separate pieces of information. So now that's all in one place. They can provide links if that makes it easier for them, but I think it just makes it simpler. These next documents around the competence framework, it's likely that the IMC may have their own already, which they will then reference. These are the key ones that I've pulled out from the ICMCI CMC webpage. So that's the framework, the background, and the presentation, because there are many documents there which refer to the competence framework, but I think these are the most relevant. Also the matrix, because that provides them on how to, sorry, for the assessors, sorry, I'll go back. This then provides the IMC with the opportunity to assess which method they use for the competence framework. And the statement of equivalence template, this is a new document. Again, it aligns with the checklist, and there are some links at the end of that, which I'll show you a bit later on. So hopefully this is a consolidation of all the documentation you should need. So I'll just move on from that. So this is a process, and again, you've probably seen this before. So just to emphasize that no documentation is sent out until the assessor has had their overview session with the IMC, so that they can understand the context of the pack of information that's being sent to them. So ideally, the Secretariat will contact the IMC to advise the assessment is due in 6 months. The assessors then contact the IMC and arrange an initial call where they will present the overview, which you have tailored to their specific assessment. And once you've been through that, you consent, the pack is then sent to them. Once they've received that pack, the assessors again would contact the IMC to make sure that they understand what they need to do, and to share a plan. So that's when they'll be able to complete their deliverables. The IMC will then send in all their documentation, which the assessor will review, and if necessary, go back with questions. And once that's all in place, then you'll carry out the actual assessment itself. And following that, as you've done in the past, you'll provide your report, checklist, and plan. And throughout this process, lots of communication. It might be appropriate for a WhatsApp group or however, but again, I think that underpins this whole process. So the statement of equivalence, apologies, it's a bit busy, this slide, won't go through all of it. It's a comprehensive key document. It was developed in parallel with the checklist. It makes it more straightforward for the assessors to check compliance, as the responsibility for the dialogue rests with the IMC. So that means you shouldn't need to be writing very much. It can be cross-referenced to the checklist, so you don't need to duplicate your remarks. So you just need to assess each of those according to the assessment criteria. So for the IMC, they can either provide their evidence directly into the statement of equivalence or cross-reference to their own ICMCI certification process document or documents. They may have several, but I think the statement of equivalence provides the framework against which they can provide that evidence. So these are the sections: responsibilities, governance, the process itself, CMC, application, the methodology in terms of competence framework, the examination and decision, and then the usual sanctions, recertification, appeals, complaints, and control of certification. So you'll recognize some of those already from the checklist. At the end of the statement of equivalence, there are these links. So for example, they will need to see some of these, the SDGs, anti-bribery, and code of conduct. So they're there for reference. I just provide this as well because I know when I first started out, I found it quite hard to understand how all these documents link together. So this is how I see the hierarchy. So at the top, you've got the certification and recertification process. So statement of equivalence is really a key central document to all of that. It drives the process. Also the competence framework and matrix feed into that. And the statement of equivalence also drives out the basic facts, code of practice, appeals and complaints. So that's the hierarchy as I see it. And for the assessor, again, as you've done in the past, the report, checklist and plan. So just to finish off, I won't read through all the deliverables. Again, you'll recognize those. Just to highlight that I know some of the IMCs may struggle with language and the size of their institute. So there is a degree of freedom for the assessor to make some judgments that as long as they can demonstrate adherence to the code of ethics, etc., that it will be possible for them to become a member. We are encouraging the IMCs to store their documents on a shared drive, Google Drive, Dropbox, etc., with permissions granted to the assessors and the Secretariat. So upon completion, all of that documentation will be archived on the ICMCI G drive with a dedicated secure folder. Okay, so again, I won't read through all the deliverables, you'll recognize those. So I wish you good luck with it. I hope that it provides you with some additional support. And yes, I'll be interested working with Ilse now to see how we move forward with this. So thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Sue. Yes, Rima.
Actually, I wanted to refer to one of the slides, so if you may share again.
Okay.
And it's the process. There's one thing that I'm not really sure I understood fully, so.
Okay. Let me just find it.
This one.
Okay.
Now, the point number 3, assessment pack is sent to the IMC. Would that include the plan? Because the one right after it would say follow up to ensure understanding and agree and share plan.
Okay, so the assessment pack is the pack which is defined on that first slide relating to the G drive.
Okay, and the plan isn't included in there?
No, it's not,
So,
because once the pack is sent to them, the assessor will then follow up to speak with them to make sure they understand what's in the pack and to agree a plan.
Okay.
And so that's the point where we would share the plan with them.
And that would be assessor, the point right before it, which is assessor contacts IMC and arranges initial call to present an overview of the process. Yeah, so it means the assessment pack would need to, because I see the share plan, and that's part of what the Secretariat would need to do, yet I don't know how we would be getting it or at which step that would be provided to the Secretariat.
Okay, I would suggest that once the IMC understand what they have to do and the assessor agrees the plan with them, they can then share the plan with the
That's when
secretariat.
it's shared with the
Yep.
secretariat.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll make
thank
sure
you.
that's included.
Okay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rima.
And
Thank
sorry
you.
for being too specific, but
No,
it
no,
got my attention.
No, absolutely. I think it's very good that we can chat and make sure that you're happy with this as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Although we have gone forward in many things in QEC, trying to standardize the process and make it simpler for assessors to go through it and make it easy for IMCs to understand it and to help and do their tasks in time, present their evidence in time. There's still a lot to do regarding detailing of processes. So this is just kind of a skeleton of what will be delivered and developed through the year, or maybe even through some part of next year. So some information for you. Galina and Dr. Makbouli have taken over a task force to check all the documentation needed for assessors and to start putting in place a assessors cohort management system. This means that we need to have always a number of assessors ready to do assessments, and they need to go through some training, and all those issues are being studied and detailed by Dr. Makbouli and Galina, and we will work on it on QAC, and we'll let you know as soon as we've gone forward on that. Okay. The second thing is that all these documents are available in G Drive for IMCs and for assessors. This means that you can go directly to some point. If you have yet any doubt where to find those documents, if you don't have the link to that folder, please get in touch with us. We'll send it to you. But what we meant with that is that everybody has access to those documents very easily, very fast, and you don't need to go through Kuzaima, Rima, or anybody else within QAC. This is something that is putting to work without much thinking, so there's a lot probably to be improved. So we count on your feedback on how it is working and how it is useful or not useful and what other things could be done. So please let us know about that as soon as you can. The objective has always been to help assessors and to help IMCs to go through the assessment process easier. We've had a lot of claims regarding how difficult it was to comply with documents and to comply with the assessment process. So this has been a task that we've taken over and tried to simplify everything. I believe we've done it, but we have not tested it. So please let us know what your opinion, suggestions. Yes, Namra.
Thank you, Christian. My first comment is to Sue. Is it possible if you can put in the last slide?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Namra, may I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Let me go through some other things. Let me finish all the recommendations I have to do to you, and we come back to that so that everybody can ask their questions or their doubts. Do you allow me that, please?
That's fine. Yes, yes, that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so first thing, assessors now have a presentation giving an overview about how the process is. And this is mainly for IMCs. In the first meeting, if possible, you have with IMCs, you may use this presentation to clarify any doubts about how the process goes on. It is ready for you. You don't have to do anything. It can be improved, but for the moment, that's what we have. I think it will be pretty helpful for you. All IMCs should be assessed this year against the new standard. So the first thing assessors need to do is get acquainted with the new standard, because I'm not sure that everybody is already acquainted with the new standard, okay? Surely IMCs are not. I'm almost sure that for some exceptions, but most of IMCs are not aware even that we have a new standard. So you assessors, lead assessors especially, need to use your experience and take hand of the equivalence principle. So you need to motivate and incentivize IMCs to understand, to study, and to change things to comply with the new assessment, with the new standard. But this doesn't need to be something that it is too strong at this point when they are getting acquainted with it. How will you have a criteria to decide? It's in your hands. That's what I can say. Lead assessors have this authority, at least for the 2023 assessments, to decide on this. I just would say and recommend, don't be too tough on IMCs, but at the same time, you need to make them be sure that the next assessment, they will need to have in place fully and completely the new standards and the procedures that comply with the new standards. Okay? So lead assessors have a very important role this year because it is the transition to the new standard. I cannot tell you, I cannot suggest any other recommendation regarding this at this point. So just putting the responsibility maybe with lead assessors. And I'm sorry I have to do that, but this is what we need to deal with. And assessors, lead assessors, have all the needed experience for them to have their own criteria and have the tools to deal with this. Okay? There's a very important issue that it was not very stressed before. That is the assessment plan. The assessment plan, it is a document. You know it. It was very simple. And we have included a schedule in the assessment plan. This schedule needs to be negotiated with the IMC in the first meeting. We've made an effort not to give too many assessments to the same people. So this year, the lead assessors have at the most 3 assessments to do along the year. So lead assessors, RIMA will send to all IMCs the notice that the assessment process is starting. But lead assessor may come and negotiate with the IMC when the assessment to that specific IMC will start and what the schedule will be with them. The only goal I will ask you to comply with is that the assessments, all the assessments you have in hand, be finished by the end of the year. The management of the schedule is yours. Rima, Kuzaima, Sue, and I will be monitoring the scheduling. And we will use the assessment plan that you keep updated to check how schedules are going on. So it is very important that you keep the assessment plan updated in the G drive or in the place where all documents will be for the IMC, okay? So that at any time, Sue and I may come in, or Rima may come in, or Kuzaima may come in and check how the scheduling is doing and how it is going on, if it is on schedule or not, or anything like that. So it is very important that you keep that document updated so that we can manage and maybe get in touch with you and help you if there's something that is it's demanding too much time. All right. IMC should provide a cloud folder where they can put all the documents, and they should give access to Rima, to Kuzaima, and to the assessors on that. If they could give access to Sue and me also, that would be good, so that we can check there. You can put there the assessment plan, and that's where we will check if the assessment plan is going on okay. But this is a requirement that is needed to be asked to IMCs. What kind of iCloud folder would be that? It could be a G drive, it could be a Dropbox, it could be iCloud, could be OneDrive, anyone to which they give you access to, okay? So this must be made very clear in the first meeting to the IMCs that they need to do this. And that is to help them and to help you and to help us manage all the system, okay? It's in their benefit too, if they can do that. This, we know that this is very easy. I don't think anybody will have any problem with that. Last resource for sending documents would be them to send them using WeTransfer. That's a software that allows sending by email big documents, but it is much preferable, and we need to make this clear, if they can create this iCloud repository. What is also the goal with this? It is that Rima and Kuzaima can follow up the process, and by the end of the process, they can pick up all the documents and keep them on ICMCI records, well controlled and in a specific place for future reference. Okay? There's also another thing that I would like to ask to lead assessors. As I told you, Galina and Makbulin are working in a management system, an assessors management system. And one of the things is training of co-assessors and assessors so that they can become lead assessors. A great part of that training is a hands-on training. This means it is required, and we are asking for you, and we are asking your help, that you mentor your co-assessors, so that they can grow up as assessors. This also means that you should delegate on them some tasks. You should decide which tasks you can delegate on them. This will depend on the lead assessor. The lead assessor has the authority and has the accountability to manage the process. But I'm asking you, please help the training of co-assessors by mentoring them and allowing them to grow up as assessors. And this will also help you not to have so much work on your shoulders by delegating in co-assessors. In this plan, in this 2023 assessment plan, no co-assessor is working in more than one assessment. So the co-assessor should have time enough to help lead assessors to conduct the assessment. So please take this into account and help us do that training. And we need your feedback on that and suggestions for Galina and for Makbuli, so that they can really work on that assessors management system. Okay. There's also another issue regarding IMCs. I don't think that all IMCs are much aware on ISO 2700. So lead assessors also should mentor the IMCs and should stress the need that they really take ISO 2700 into account, and that they develop it in their country, and they develop it within their members. So please write that within your tasks to stress a little bit on ISO 2700 with the IMCs. I don't think IMCs are taking this too much seriously, so let them know that this is serious, okay? And as always, I want to remember everybody the confidentiality aspect. We need to work and we need to make sure that we keep the information, that assessors keep the information regarding their assessments confidential. Okay, if QAC or ICMCI needs to share any information regarding the assessment or something like that, we will only do it with their consent. So they will be asked before sharing any information about them to anybody else. But assessors must be very aware of this. I know they always are, but I'm just reinforcing the idea. So all this has to do with the last thing I want to comment, is that there's a new status being gained by QAC. QAC, there's some changes going on in the structure of ICMCI governance, and QAC is becoming an independent assessment body. This is regarding assessment of IMCs in 17024, which makes QAC to become a 17011 compliant body. And one of the things that needs to be complied is to be an independent body. So this is being provided by the new governance model. And there's some other schemes that may come up that QAC may need to, and assessors may need to assess in the future. So assessors and assessors training will be pretty much stressed in the following years. And when you need to understand that there's a new status, a new condition, and probably we will need to grow. QAC needs to grow. The last mention is, I don't know if everybody has been able to check the new TOR, QAC TOR. If you haven't, and probably you haven't, next week we will share it with all assessors. That's possible, Rima, isn't it?
Of course, but most probably we will have to send, other than the TOR, the presentation that Sue just did, as well as the recording you mentioned. So we will send all in one email.
Perfect.
And we can add it to the G Drive as well, so that everyone can have access to it in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. This TOR was developed recently, and it shows this new stats for QAC. Okay, that is why I'm stressing all assessors and asking for all assessors to read it. And if they have any comments or suggestions, please make it, because everything may be changed and should be revised at least once a year, once every 2 years, so that we can introduce continuous improvement. Okay, that's everything I had to tell you. These are suggestions and my recommendations for the assessments this year. So it's open for comments and questions. And Namra, now please feel free to make your questions and ask so that we can take your doubts in consideration.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Sue, if you could come up with the last slide.
Okay. You see the slide now?
Yes, I have. Now,
Okay.
if you both on the the standards mention that there is certification and recertification, but I noticed we keep on only mentioning the issue of 2 cases of recently qualified CMCs. What about those ones that are going to be really certified? Because I've noticed that I think with it's not explicit, although the standards mention the issue of recertification. How many would, if we are going to have 2 recently certification, how many would we need to do for those that are going to be recertified? Because
Okay,
at this stage, yeah, sorry.
So yeah, that's a good question. We only really cover here. We don't really cover recertification, sort of virtual visibility of those. I guess we could ask for that. I'm not sure it's been asked for before. I think we've only had visibility that it's covered within the process itself. So certainly something I can have a look at.
Okay.
May I?
Thank you.
Namra?
Yes.
The standard requires that CMCs be recertified at least once every 3 years. So this is something that assessors should check. The objective of interviewing 2 recently CMCs, it could be new certifications or recertifications. The objective of this interview is to check, in their view, if and for the assessor to get some cues, if the process is being held well or not. So I don't think that it makes much of a difference if it is recertification or certification. You will need to check if the IMC is recertifying its CMCs as it is required by the standard. But the interview has other goal. The goal is to check if the IMC is doing well the process. Okay?
Yeah. Sorry, Christian. Why I'm asking this? If you go back to the standards, they are very explicit to say there will be certification and there will be recertification. What I'm trying to advocate for is that I think maybe there's need for further guidance. I think in terms of, the recertification. We say it's going to be a light one, which is correct. But I don't think, out of the assessments that I've done, IMCs have been using various ways of doing it. And in the end now, you ask yourself to say, maybe isn't it high time that we also come up with maybe guidelines, which will help, I think, assessors, rather than leaving it to say, okay, fine. What would you say would be the minimum?
Perfect. Okay, understood. You're right. At this moment, I just can say that lead assessors have the experience to check on this and to use their criteria to check on this. And we will go work on this through the year, along the year, to see if we can improve the guidance to assessors on this issue.
Okay, thank you. My second question, thank you, Sue, for showing that. My second question, I think we discussed this last time, where there was mention of the pilot that was done on South Africa and India. I'm not sure. I might have lost it. I'm not sure. Has they been? Has those two pilots been completed? And if they have been completed, when are we going to see how they've been approached with a view of being able to see how they can be of assistance in the other assignments that are going to have?
Namra, I didn't understand well your question. Sue, if you understood, please answer. If not, I'll ask Namra to repeat the question.
So I think
Okay.
I think Namrod, you were correct in that. I think it was the I think Nick put the report for piloting. So
Yeah.
I can probably chase that up. I think that's where that came from, but I think it was just the report. I don't think it was it wasn't anything to do with the process. So we can definitely check where that is. And we can share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question, Namra?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, Otto, please.
Hi, thank you. Couple of questions. One is if there was any specific reason why we asked the shared drive to be provided by the IMC. Is there a specific reason why, for example, the assessor cannot set up the drive and say, put your documents there, or put it in ICMCI from the beginning? Just wondering. That's my first question. Okay.
I think you have the freedom as lead assessor, if you want to do it, for you to create the G drive, as long as you give access to them, to the IMC, to RIMA, and to COSIM. Okay? But it's preferable.
So it is a matter of convenience.
If you give the responsibility to the IMC, so they feel part of the process. Okay?
Yeah.
But if it's good for you, once again, lead assessor has a lot of freedom to guide and to lead the assessment. So there's no problem with that.
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody sees any problem. I don't think there's a problem with that.
So it's a negotiated thing.
Sorry, repeat, please.
No, it is a negotiated item. Is because
yes, of course, yes,
okay,
yes.
Okay. The second question is, last year I had the opportunity to have two countries or two IMCs that did not have English or let's say the Western alphabet regarding their documents. And I do believe that the devil is in the details. So I saw in the last slide that we just saw that you know, in my assessments, I always recommend them, recommend the IMC to keep a duplicate of their IMC related documents in English, because they might not ensure that their assessors would be speaking their local language. Now, that being said, last year in a couple of examples, the availability, you know, if we only rely on them to provide documents in English, it's going to take forever to get them back. So what I ultimately did was to use you know, some AI tool to translate everything and work with that for the time being. So I was just wondering, you know, they are supposed to have, or I'm not sure that it is currently mandated that they must have an English version, but just, this is not perhaps a question, is more than a comment, that if they don't have the documents in detail in the local language, I rather translate and review the detailed documents than ask them to prepare something for me that in English that probably will be much more general and prepare for me for the specific occasion.
Okay, this has already been discussed with ICMCI, okay, Otto? Let me welcome Alice that has joined us. Hello, Alice. So let me answer you, Otto.
Sorry, I just wanted to apologize for being late. I thought, I'm at Eastern Standard Time. I thought it was starting in 10 minutes. Obviously, very
No problem,
confused.
Alice. You will get you will be able to see the recording of this meeting, and if you have any doubt or anything, please contact us. All right, but for you, probably there's no news. Okay. Otto, you are right. I've always stressed with Rima ever since I came into ICMCI that language is one of the biggest problems we have. Not everybody in IMCs is proficient in English or proficient enough in English. So what we know, it is mandatory by IMC's requirements when they become members that they have documents in English. The official language of IMC is English. And if I am wrong, Rima may correct me, okay? But this is what I've always understood. The official language of IMC is English. So they should.
ICMCI, Christian.
Let's go, sorry. ICMCI. Is English. So they should have the required documents for an assessment in English. But once again, if you find that the IMC is not ready, doesn't have those documents, it's for the lead assessor to decide what to do. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, Rima.
I just want to add that usually if they do not have them in English, ICMCI accepts Google translated documents. So it doesn't need to even be professional type of translation. It could be Google translated. So that is a bit lenient and usually assists IMCs.
That's what I was going to add. It means that you may use and you may ask them to use any translator, Google or another one, ChatGPT, I don't know. There's a lot of translators today, all right? So, but finally, ICMCI accepts it, and it is for the lead assessor to decide how much room you give them so that they can provide it, or you use the Google Translator. It is to the lead assessor to decide. I just want to stress that if you take over too much of what should be IMC's responsibility, they will just give you the work.
Correct.
So you should stress that it's their responsibility and give them some time. But once again, use the schedule in the assessment plan to press the IMC so that they can provide the translation. Make a Google translation of a document shouldn't take more than 1 day. Okay.
Yeah, let me just share the specific case that I had, because it might be of help to other assessors, was that they did have a lot of information, but they were process diagrams. It wasn't narrative. It was process diagrams. Everything was ISO 9000 compliant, so everything was in diagrams, and translating that in the form of a diagram, it's a pain. So basically, the easy thing to do using Google Translate is that I asked them, or I did it, to create them in PDF. So once it is generated, the PDF, inside there are all the words, and there is an online tool called Online Doc Translator that
Otto, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is the work of the IMC, not the work of the assessor. They should come up with the solution.
Yes, Rima, but the problem is that when you are asking all the assessments to be completed within a year, as a responsibility of the lead assessor, then timing becomes an issue for me.
Okay, let me get here. I'll allow you to talk, Alice, in 1 minute. We have a goal that is to end all assessments by the end of the year. Once again, there's things that we do not control. So probably we will find that 1 or 2 or 3 assessments may go inside 2024. As long as the lead assessor has the control of the process and has allowed that to the IMC, for me, it's okay.
Okay.
Understand? There are things that happen that they're not under our control. And lead assessors must understand that they don't need to go through all the bureaucracy inside IMC to be allowed to do this or that. The lead assessor decides.
Okay.
The lead assessor makes the report. Then we can check if we agree with the decisions he has made or not. Okay? But up to that point, that is the responsibility of the lead assessor. That is why the lead assessor is so important in the process. And that is why we're asking Galina and Makbuli to go over everything and to be more detailed on that management the assessment management process, the assessors management. Okay. So yes, you're right. And yes, you may decide if it takes more time. Okay. But once again, I agree with Rima. And I will stress this again. Don't try to make the work for the IMCs.
Yes.
They need to understand that it's their responsibility to do that. They are so interested in being members of ICMCI, as ICMCI is interested in them to staying as members.
Oh, understood. Perfect.
Some things that it's our responsibility, some think it's their responsibility. And the lead assessor may decide that if he decides that they need more time, okay, you have that freedom. All right?
Fair enough.
Alice, want to complement something?
Yes, thank you for that, Christian, because I was actually going to ask a couple of questions there and you've clarified. I do have one issue though with the plan, the assessment plan. I find it very difficult to work with. It just seems that the order in which things are identified to me is not logical. And there is no opportunity to change dates if need be. So it's kind of unnatural. It's, you know, when you meet first with the IMC and you both come up with an agreement of when this is going to be completed, and then life gets in the way. I mean, we're all volunteers, whether it be the IMC side or the assessor side. And then there's no opportunity to go back and say, okay, well, this date has been delayed and this is the reason why. So then I just find what I'm doing is I'm erasing the date and putting a new date in. And that to me does not make sense. I think we need to have I would like to see a process whereby if the date is like, I don't know, December 20th, and it goes to January 20th, that there is an opportunity to explain why the extra month was required, so that we can track, you know, if it's because the IMC was unable to provide documentation, you know, and this becomes a trend, then it's something that we can manage better. If it's because the lead assessor was unavailable, which has happened, you know, to me, for example, then I can indicate, well, I was unavailable. But it seems so arbitrary just to say, okay, well, that date's no good. I'm going to just put another date in there.
Okay, Alice, you're right. I agree. The tool is not so adequate for what we have. We've done it with what we had and with the time we have and with the importance of putting this plan in order and starting. So what I can say to lead assessors is do the best you can with the tool that we've provided, and feel free to change anything there if you need to. We are working in better plan control and project control tools to be introduced. Okay, we are already doing that, but we didn't have time to really implement. So for the time being, you'll have to manage with what you have. Okay, the only thing I can tell you is that this is not a forgotten issue. This is something that we are working on. I just cannot tell you when we will have a solution or a better tool for you. Okay, so for this year, you will have to manage with what we have. I know that it's not a good question, a good answer, but it's what I can tell you. Are you satisfied with the answer, or you have anything else to say?
I'm satisfied with the answer, and you know what, I probably will make some adjustments. I did have to in a couple of occasions, and I'm really happy to share any adjustments I make if it's of assistance to others and to the planning process.
Please do. We're expecting this from assessors. Okay.
Excellent. Yep.
I also
sorry, I also want to make one other comment. I've whether I was lucky or otherwise, had the opportunity to work with some IMCs that had difficulty with meeting deadlines due to a variety of reasons. And hi, Ansambi. So we're just finishing the Jordanian file. It's taken some time. I don't know what, and you may have already talked about this, I don't know what is an appropriate or inappropriate length of time. I don't like to pressure the IMCs because I know that they have things happening which I'm not privy to. But I also recognize that we don't want to delay the process, longer than required. So I don't know, is there like is there like a leeway of like 3 months or whatever, or is it just like my best judgment that I'm supposed to be using?
Okay, let me welcome Zombie.
Good morning. Well, it's morning for me.
Yeah.
Good day.
Okay. Alice, I'll give you the same answer I gave to Walker. Use your judgment.
Okay, that's fine.
Lead assessor has the authority to do that, okay? Lead assessor knows that we have a goal, that it is to try to finish all assessments by the end of the year. But if that's not possible, use your judgment.
Okay.
That's why you are a lead assessor. I've worked with standards and doing things, setting up best practices and things like that. And I don't like to put a straitjacket on people that have authority and responsibility for a process. I like to give them enough space to decide. That is why I train them. That is why I give them responsibility. That is why I give them the authority. Okay, so use it wisely. That is what we expect. All right.
Perfect.
Can we improve processes? Can we improve these things? Can we help? Can we better help IMCs to meet deadlines? So we will think what we can do to do that in the future. At this moment, this is what we have. Okay. So once again, we expect feedback so that we can work on it. All right. But in the meantime, you need to work with what you have, and the authority is with the lead of assessor. And if the lead assessor has any doubt, contact us. We'll give some guidance on that. But be sure, one of the reasons for this meeting is to make this very clear for lead assessor. They have the mandate, they have the accountability, but they have all of our support for that. Okay, so I know there's a lot of things that happen in the meantime that are not under control, and this is the task of the lead assessors to decide. Yes, Sue, please comment.
So Alice, hi. There is a plan template available for you. It's entirely up to you how you wish to manage that. I think we have encouraged for sharing that plan. But what I would suggest is, obviously, if there are issues, just notify us, just keep us, the Secretariat, advised, so at least we'll know, and if possible, if there's anything that they can do to support you, then that's fine. But yeah, the template is there, it's yours to own, and you need to tailor it however you see fit, really. So just supporting really what Christian says on that. Thank you, Christian.
Who talked? Okay, it's already 10:08, so I expected this meeting to be not to take so long. If anybody needs to leave, please leave. I don't think there's much more questions about it, so I'll just leave you a couple of minutes if anyone wants to make any comment before ending the meeting. I thank you, your collaboration, your feedback, your views, and please keep close touch with us. We will be organizing again the assessors exchange meeting, and I hope as much assessors as possible participate on that. That is where we will have the chance to exchange opinions, suggestions, and improvements. And maybe Galina Makbuli will already have some things to present there. Okay.